Okay, we took a little bit of a U-turn this week. We don't have any tournaments until the end of July, so I was keeping an eye on the Montana Governor's Cup. And how many boats are in this? So let me introduce Whit and Carly Rush. First off,
Hello.
how many boats were in that tournament, by the way?
201.
So a 200 boat tournament, and so a little bit about Whit. He he was the Angler of the Year last year on the Montana or on the Fort Peck Championship Series, which consists of 3 events, and so he obviously knows what he's doing. He's dialed in. He's been coming out here for a few years too, quite a few years actually. So I always keep an eye on him when he's got a tournament coming up, and well, he won the thing. Carly and Whit won the entire 201 boat tournament. So there's not a bigger, I don't think there's a bigger walleye tournament as far as boat numbers going anywhere.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Maybe the North Dakota Gov Cup has that many, I think, but
so that's next on your list, I guess. So what does it feel like? What does it feel like to beat 201 really good walleye anglers?
It's really humbling. You know, there's just so many things you could mess up throughout the day that they would take advantage of pretty fast. So you got to make good decisions and have a lot of luck on your side.
Well, the best anglers always throw that word luck out there, and while there is a little bit of luck involved, there's also a ton of pre-fishing, hard work, patience, strategy involved in that. But there's always a little slice of luck. But I would definitely not say that contributed to you guys' victory. So tell us a little bit
You know what
about
they say about luck, though, right?
What's that?
Preparation meets opportunity.
Right.
Yep. Means you did something right.
Right. Well, they found the right fish. That's for sure. So I will say this: a couple days before the tournament, I got a message from Whit, and he said we found the right fish, but they won't bite. So I'll let him take over from there, because that's a frustrated and good situation at the same time, and it can either you can zero in a situation like that, or win like happened to them. So kind of walk us through how your pre-fishing went and how the tournament went.
Well, I think when did we start? On Tuesday? Tuesday we started and we didn't touch a fish all day. Did we even catch a small one?
I caught a small one on a Lindy.
A small one on a Lindy, and that's not what we're trying to catch on. So the next day we decided to do a little bit of cranking and at least verify that what we were seeing was fish, and we did catch a couple. So, and we still couldn't get them to bite casting to them, so we just kept moving areas of the lake until we found something that started biting. And then on Thursday we hammered them in those 3-4 spots. I think we had about 38.5 pounds that day, and that's just catching one fish here and then moving, you know. And so we thought, well, if they keep going, we'll be all right. So we didn't really know for sure, and it took a while every morning before they'd bite. It was slow 2 hours when we got there. It took until 9:30 until they picked up, but we could see that they're around. And then once they all started biting, they weren't there very long, and then they were all gone chasing Cisco. So we tried to hit those 3 spots as fast as we could as soon as they started biting, and it worked out.
So for a lot of us that have never fished Fort Peck, I know it's huge. So Cisco's are the primary larger bait fish that these big walleyes that we've been seeing for the last 5-6 years on Peck are chasing.
Yep. Yeah, there was balls of bait everywhere. You could see, you'd be watching a fish and a ball of bait would swim by and away the fish would go. And then you'd have to go looking for something else. But kind of frustrating when there's that much bait everywhere. But once they start biting, they really go.
So you could actually watch bait come in and watch a fish trailing after that bait.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, what's that? And there they go. So on to the next one.
So when you say you were cranking, I'm assuming you're trolling, not casting?
Yeah, trolling cranks, yeah.
Yeah. So what was it that you were looking for? Obviously bait, but I mean, what was it that keyed you into certain points that you were checking out to be able to find them?
Well, some of them were points and some of them were kind of banks along points. It was just wherever we found the most fish when we were cranking. I guess. And we kind of cranked a different area, but we also cranked down there a little bit. And just looking for more fish on side scan, stuff like that. Because we had known there was fish in all the depth ranges, but we couldn't get any of them to bite. Even pike weren't biting. So then when we pulled cranks through there, we caught a couple walleyes and found the pike. Of course, always on Fort Peck. And so we knew we just had to figure something out, or else go to where they would bite a glide bait, shiver minnow, whatever.
What is the bottom like out there? Is it a lot of sand, rock, weeds? I don't have any clue.
It's gumbo and then hard clay spots, and then there's scattered rock on some of the points and banks, like kind of old fossil rock,
Okay.
Just so people
weeds
understand
too, yeah.
what you're talking about. What do you mean when you say gumbo?
Just the sinky,
Clay mud.
but it's kind of a shale mud too. But then in between that, there's hard spots where the hard gumbo shale sticks out, I guess. What you call it?
hard rock.
Hard rock.
Gotcha. So when you're doing that, do you know right away when you get a pike on? Or is it kind of a heartbreaker? You're like, oh, that's a good fish. And then,
Glide baits?
no, when you get a pike on?
When you
if
get
you're
a
out
pike
there-
on, it's a pike
They
usually right
fight
away.
different,
Do you?
yeah.
Yeah, they take off, go crazy, yeah.
Gotcha.
Or bass.
Or
We've
bass.
caught a couple bass too.
Those lake trout don't come up shallow, do they? That time of the year, or
Not this time of the year, generally, no.
no?
You might catch up in 30, 35 once in a while in the morning, but other than that, they're pretty well out in the 90-foot range, I'd say. I guess I don't do it enough to know for sure, but some are out there.
Are they chasing those Cisco's too? I mean,
Yep.
have you ever seen? I'm sure there's guys that do it, but is there a bite out in that deep suspended water on Fort Peck chasing walleyes that are chasing
Well,
Cisco's?
we've tried it, but had no success. But I've heard of people going across bays, still pulling cranks and running into walleyes out in the middle of them, but we haven't.
There's probably
had any.
somebody in a pontoon with the tunes blasting and swimming on the
Probably.
side. Yeah, that's who catches those fish.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably pretty inconsistent and hard to nail down, but maybe.
So I got a question for you. I know you talked about you just added some electronics to your boat right before the tournament, and you also said it was the most frustrating thing that you've ever added, but it also helped. So talk about
It
that.
did help a little bit because we could see and know the fish were still there. But yeah, we casted, especially the last day of the tournament, we must have casted 100 fish,
A lot.
and we got 6 bites. So they would either just leave, or Cisco's would come by in the way they'd go, or they just weren't interested at all. They would
And
never move.
were both days tough starts. You said till about midday or 9:30.
9:30. Yep.
So both days were kind of consistent, where it was a frustrating start, and then you had a little bite window.
Yeah, from 9:30 to 11, the first day we had our 5 good ones, and the second day we only had 4 good ones by 11, and then we had to go back through everything again and didn't see anything going on. And then finally, our last spot we went to, I found a fish and cast at him and hooked up right away, and I thought, this is it, we got it, and it popped off.
Oh,
So
no.
that was a tough blow there, but we got reorganized. And a couple more casts, we got a 25.5. So that was our 5th fish that day, and that was our last bite.
So you teased us then. What was it that you added?
A 25.5-inch.
The 25.5 is the last one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
Probably need to explain this format to us, how it works out there.
Okay, so your 5 biggest fish is what you weigh each day, and you can weigh as many of them as you want at the weigh boat, and it goes off a length conversion. I think you guys use that out there now, don't you?
No, well, we had to use we did it for a couple years when we had to do fish donkey,
All right.
and but that was all, you entered it through the phone. But you actually have to take your fish to a weigh boats, which explain how many of them are they? Is there multiple weigh boats? Are they in a GPS location that you run to, or how does that work?
They had 21 weigh boats in
Wow.
the tournament, and then they gave us a map in our little pamphlet and told us which points, which bays, where they'd be at on the lake. And so if you were pretty much fishing by one, that's who you go weigh with.
Right.
So on and so up the lake.
yeah, that makes it nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to run a long ways usually if you
Right.
don't miss them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that tournament is, we've had a few guys that I think this year there was, from what I saw, there was one team, Scott Spalding and Chris Shamer, they ran out there. There's been a few guys in the years past, and they always come back saying that tournament is so well run. Before the tournament with the calcutta and just the big feed that they have and everybody getting together. So, what kind of explain how that all goes down out there. I mean, they have a huge get together the day before and a couple days. Don't they have some different events like for, like a day before?
Yeah, Thursday. So they'll have the guys and gals tournament, and that starts at 8:00 until noon. And then it's pretty much husband and wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever you want to fish with, guys and gals. They take your biggest fish, and that's the winner. And I think this year was a 27-incher that won it. A couple of our friends won it south of Peerless. And then that night they'll have the rules meeting. They have a big steak and bean dinner. Everybody goes to the Kiwanis campground. Pretty much big party. And then the next day is takeoff at 7:00, which I think some people start putting in the water about 5:00 a.m. Then they have to sit in the bay and wait and watch.
With that many boats, I can imagine.
Right.
Yeah, we put in at 5:15 every morning and then had to sit and wait.
Which is not very fun.
No.
But
and then earlier in, I think 2 weeks before the tournament starts, they'll draw a number out of the 200 boats that are fishing. And this year they drew Team 93 to go out first. And so 93 went out first, and then it goes to 200 and then back around to 1 through 92. And then the next day it will be reverse order.
Right. Is it pretty smooth as far as getting the boats in and out? I mean, not many
Yeah,
boats.
it goes pretty as fast as you could expect, I guess.
Yep. I actually watched, I was there one year.
Yeah.
I watched everybody launch, and it was very smooth. I mean, huge lineup of boats, but very well coordinated. And I think that was in 2018. And I was actually entered in it, but I was going to fish my first NWT that year in Devil's Lake, and I had backed out, and I was actually there watching. I think it was day one. I don't know how you guys did that year.
I think we ended up about 23rd, I think.
Right, which out of 200 boats is still excellent. But I watched the Calcutta, and so we've done Calcuttas in the Kettle Falls tournament. We're gonna do it, I believe, in Oregon in our last tournament this year. So maybe explain that a little bit and how it works. And unfortunately for you guys, somebody made a lot of money off of buying you guys.
Yeah, they did. I think we went for about 2,000 the first night and 2,100 the second night. Jeez. And then they won overall. I think they won close to 20 grand. I don't know.
Over 20,000, yeah.
Wow.
Was there a big thank you?
They told us you better not come in early and have pizza on the second day like you did the first day.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. So did you not think that you could improve your bag on day one? Is that why you came in?
We hit our spots and we added up and we're like, we got 40 pounds. We're done with those spots. We don't want to beat them up anymore because there wasn't that many fish around. So we checked other spots and we're like, it turned into back to how our pre-fishing went everywhere else. We didn't catch anything. So we thought, let's beat the rush.
Is that when I thought you said Carly caught a 27-incher on a spot you'd never fished before? Was that day one or day two?
Yeah, that was day one. Yeah, it was close to a spot, close to where our third spot, and we went over there and upgraded one more. Yeah,
2 more.
Wow,
2 more. Yeah,
about a 27 and a half and a 26 and a half there.
So your average weight per fish was what, 9 pounds, something in that?
7.9.
be 7.9.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. That's when we were catching fish between 26 and 28 inches. It didn't look like we could catch one over 30, but the second day she did catch one that was a 30 3/4, and that was our only fish over 29.
28.
For 28.
Wow. Wow. Well, and you didn't get a lot of bites either. You guys were.
No.
only looking for the right fish. I mean, other than
I'd
that
say we
other than that 7-incher that I saw that she entered, or
Yeah,
you
oh, yeah,
entered.
count that.
That's a wee walleye.
Count that. We got 8 bites that day and 7 bites the second day, I guess, and lost 2 of them. So
And on their scorecard for day 2, I believe it was, they had a 7-incher in the mix, trying to win the smallest walleye.
right,
So-
the wee walleye. Yep.
Somebody
Found
beat
the
that
biggest
7-incher.
and the smallest.
But I
You
don't
did
know
win. So you did win the smallest
No,
also.
we didn't win. I think it was 5 1/4 that won it.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's funny. So, you were talking about your electronics that you added that you got frustrated with. So, what was it?
Oh, the Garmin Live Scope.
Yeah.
Just because we do shiver minnows all the time, and you're not always watching them when you don't have that, so you don't get as frustrated when they don't bite. But when you know they're right there and they're just watching it go by every time, it gets frustrating.
Yeah.
Right.
Then it
And
feels like you should be covering bank looking for a more active fish, is what we kind of kept doing, and we just kind of kept moving after they wouldn't bite.
I kept telling him it's just a northern.
Yes.
You don't want him to bite.
So, you actually put that on just a week before the tournament, huh?
Yep.
A couple days, yeah.
Well, I had a Mega Live on it too before that.
Oh, did you? Okay. So, you're familiar with that type of equipment. I mean,
Right. Yep.
yeah.
It wasn't a big adjustment.
Yes,
Like
I
you-
just added a forward facing here, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago. And I found out that, when you go out and you're fishing and, I spent more time playing around with that stupid electronics than what I was actually fishing. Because,
Yeah.
you're trying to figure it out and then you see something and you're trying to get it set up. So it's like, okay, what's that? And I don't know. It just takes a little bit of getting used to.
Well, like last year, we watched people fish by us. They were using that, and they weren't casting. They were just staring at it, waiting and waiting and waiting. We're like, well, if we ever get one of those, we're not doing that. We're going to continue to fish, because you do catch them when you don't see them, because they can hide from that too.
Right.
So we kept working shoreline, and we'd only stop if we saw one that was for sure off the bottom and probably active. Otherwise, we cast at him, and both cast at him, and then keep on moving along. Try to keep finding active fish, I guess.
Right.
Well, that's one thing I'd noticed with with that type of technology is the fact for one, you have a pretty narrow beam. So, I mean, unless it's really pointed right at it, yeah, you're right. You could be missing something off to the side. So,
Well, and during pre-fishing, I saw one deeper. He was probably in about 30 feet, and I cast it over to him, and I popped it once, and 3 more came up with it. So where did they come from? But
Wow. Bellies are in the gumbo, whatever you called it, and they're just laying there probably.
and there's ridges and stuff that you can't see. Oh,
That's one of the biggest things I've noticed with live scope is it can be frustrating, but when you actually see like the bait fish swimming around, I mean, 9 times out of 10, any area that has bait fish, there's going to be some active feeding fish too. But it just gives you a different look at the water down there. And I know there are guys that stare at that thing constantly, but like, it doesn't sound like that's the way you basically used it to verify that these fish are here.
Well, I kept my eye on it for sure, but we tried to keep moving and not get sucked into fishing for one fish for an hour,
Right. Well, I've done what you're saying. I've been stuck, matter of fact, the first tournament this year, we found some huge fish over in Oregon, and I even dropped my AquaView to verify that I was seeing big 10-pound walleye, and they were, and I absolutely killed us on day 1 because I got frustrated, or I got stubborn and kept trying to get them fish to go, and they probably bit 2-3 days later or
Right.
whatever. I could not get them to go. So there's still, people seem to think that, hey, if people have live scope or any of these forward facing, it's like cheating. It's not. I mean, you still got to make the right decisions. It just verifies that what you're looking at is actually what you need to catch, but you still got to realize, and it's really hard when you know they're there, to just keep moving on. And it sounds like you guys knew that, and you just kept cycling through different areas until those fish decided to eat. And
I turned on, yep.
right? And that's the luck factor. I think sometimes
Yeah.
there's a little bit of being in the right place at the right time, but you also got to make the decision to not sit on the same fish all day and
Right.
and crash. So
When they start biting and we catch two, we're like, we got to get to the next spot right now because they're
Yep.
biting here too.
yep.
That's
Have you ever
good
have you
decision.
ever tried to correlate that into like a moon phase, like a lot of the musky guys do with the major moons, the minors? Have you ever tried to correlate that with like why did these fish certainly or decide to bite between 9:30 and 11:30?
I don't know. I mean, sure, it's related. If I'm doing searching for big fish all the time, like when we're big fish hunting in the fall, or definitely pay attention to the moon phase. But during a tournament, I try not to even worry about it and just figure out when they bite, regardless of what everything else is, I guess. But
The whole lake fires up at the same time, basically.
it sure seems like it some years, yeah.
Right.
You don't want to be in the wrong spot when that's happening.
And you don't really have a choice during the tournament. I mean, you got to fish it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it does help when it lines up with the moon phases the way you want it to. But
What was it? Almost a new moon?
At full moon.
It was full moon still.
Almost.
so what was the total weight that you ended up with?
79.56.
Damn, it's a big bag.
And there was one team I think that had 75, and then there was a huge drop off from there. So there wasn't a great bite going on at all from what I saw.
And that was only
Yeah, and the second place team was on, what did they have the first day? 45, 46 pounds. And those are all big fish. The ones we weren't catching, bigger than the ones we were catching. And the
What were
second
you-
day, they only caught 3 big fish. Oh, they were all catch. They were 30 inches or around that area. So
And
they
you were
had
in fifth place on the first day. Is that
Yeah.
what it was?
Yep. And they
Yeah.
only had 3 fish the second day for 30 pounds. So they were on big fish.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Do you know the people that got second place?
No, I don't. They're from North Dakota. I know who they are, but
Right.
Yeah, and that's only for 5. I mean, some of the tournaments that we have down here where we get 80 pounds, that's 6 fish per. So
Yeah, we got to deal with that slot, so it's kind of.
yeah.
But I don't think Fort Peck. I think Fort Peck over the last few years, it's obviously gotten a lot of national attention. There's been a lot of TV shows shot out there in the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of big names are going out there and fishing. So I don't know if I would put the Columbia River. Obviously, the Columbia River has some giants out here, but I think Fort Peck has got to be right up there, if not at the top of the pyramid for best average per tournament. Compared to like Green Bay, I know there's a big tournament going on tomorrow and Friday, or tomorrow and Thursday, I believe it is, or Thursday and Friday in Green Bay. But they're not going to touch 80 pounds in 2 days. They have a 5 fish also there, no size restrictions, I don't believe. But Fort Peck is it always been this good, or has it changed over the last 10, 15 years?
The high water, when I went to high water full pool and back in 2012, everything kind of changed. As far as before that, the lake was quite a bit lower, and it was always a deep rig and bite, leech bite. And that was before everybody was casting and stuff like that. And then when the lake came higher, it seemed like they got more aggressive, because I remember trying stuff like that back then when the lake was low and they didn't want nothing to do with it. They just wanted live bait. And then since the lake was high for so long, it just seems like you can always find aggressive fish somewhere if you luck into them. But trying to find those big aggressive fish is the hardest part, I guess. But I think the higher lake levels have really changed what the mentality of the fish there are like. It seems like, anyway.
Right.
what do you think the biggest hurdle is for fishing that area?
Well, any part of the lake can be good at any given time, but it's just it's a lot of water,
Mm-hmm.
and we've fished it for a long time, so we kind of narrow it down to certain spots everywhere that we check first. And if that doesn't work, then we got to go back through and try different structure and stuff like that.
Yeah, how long can people run in that tournament? I mean, can you go 100 miles, or how are there boundaries? in
Yep,
that?
the boundary on the dry arm is from San Arroyo, South San Arroyo Point over to Box Creek or Box Elder, the south point of Box Elder, and then the west would be just before probably 5 or 6 miles before Hell Creek. It's the south point of or west point of Crooked Creek over to the 8th marker point, which would be on Upper 8th. There's a white stake on that bluff, I guess. Which it's quite a ways down. It's probably 25 miles down.
Right.
So-
So there's 3 tournaments a year on Peck, correct? Hell Creek,
Yep.
Rock, and
4 because Crooked Creek.
Well, there's 3 in the championship series. There's 4 because one
Right.
of the Crooked Creek Classic is held out of the marina now because of the low water levels, and that one's part of the Montana Walleye Circuit.
right. And last year you got your first big win with that was with Chris Keller.
Yep.
You guys won. That was Rock Creek, right?
Rock Creek, yep.
Right. How many boats were in that tournament?
That one's around 100 usually, a little over 100 boats.
So these are 2. So in the last 2 years, yeah, 2. That's huge, man. That's a hell of an accomplishment. Congratulations. I mean, most of us dream of winning a 100-boat tournament. Now you've won a 200-boat tournament, so you both have kind of hit the peak already.
Yeah, well, hopefully there's a little more left, but
Oh, there will be more. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I struggle with trying to win one that's got 30 or 40 boats in it.
you'll probably still. I mean, those 30 or 40 guys out there, though, they're tough fishermen. So
No, there's no doubt about that.
Yep. I was telling Whit, or I was telling Lonnie earlier that he said, how do you know Whit? And I said, well, I met it, I think, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago through Facebook, but we'd never met each other. And the funny part is I have a picture of him in the background.
on your intro.
Oh, is it on the intro?
Yeah. I thought
Okay.
you did that on purpose.
No, I didn't realize that. So he was
Right.
so we'd talked here and there over the years, and he was in the background of a 16.5 pounder I'd caught,
Yeah.
and he's got this little leaning to the sides. His neck is slumped. Like, what the heck, because they didn't have a good day, apparently.
Yeah, all right.
And we were crushing them.
Yeah.
And he was in the background of the photo, and I think I sent him the picture that night, and he's like, "That was you?"
Yeah, I didn't know that was you in that boat, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I was fishing with Dan, and so I caught a 16.7 on Saturday, which was my biggest ever, and then I ruined it the next day and caught I'll never more than likely beat an 18 pounder the next day.
Yeah.
So that's how I met Whit. And I know Carly's caught a lot of big fish. Whit has not out here. Is
Some
that correct?
average ones. I've got
some
some
average-
average ones out there.
Some average ones, but she's got the big ones so far. And I don't think she's been out here for a few years.
Not
No.
since then, I don't think.
Oh,
How big was it?
16.5.
Nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
I don't think you were out here last year, though, were you? Were you out
Mm.
here last year? You skipped last year, but Whit's usually out here with a couple of the other guys from Montana in February trying to find that elusive big fish. And he was probably way before everybody was out here fishing. I think he was out there when nobody was out there fishing. So
Yeah, in the beginning, it wasn't too many boats, but it's getting to be quite a few.
it's definitely changed.
Yep, for sure. So as far as your guys' Montana series, you said there's 3 tournaments in it?
The Fort Peck Championship Series has the 3 tournaments: Rock Creek, Governor's Cup, and Hell Creek. And then the
Okay.
Montana Walleye Circuit has the Crooked Creek Classic, which is at Fort Peck, and then it has Fresno Reservoir, Tiber Reservoir, and Canyon Ferry Reservoir in that circuit.
How do you do that one?
No, we don't have the time to get to those ones anymore. We did when we were younger, I guess.
Yeah. How
Right,
much of a? I was just going to say, how much of an area are we talking about? You got to cover. I mean, is it like going from?
For us, Canyon Ferry is about 6.5, 7 hours away, and then Tiber is probably 5 or 6, and Fresno's 4.5, 4.
Yeah.
So it's on. Most of those are on the other side of the state from us.
He's a hardworking farmer, so he's out in the fields for probably 20 hours a day, certain times of the year. So
Usually
You know.
in May when it's the best fishing. I get all the fish pictures.
yep.
That's good. What advice would you give to somebody that's coming out there for the first time, saying, "Hey, you know, I want to go out to Fort Peck and try some fishing"?
Well, I mean, the first obvious thing is to check main points, and I guess you just got to keep covering water until you find something by using your electronics or just fishing. But mostly they start there, and then but they can be in and they can be all the way into the bays too. So
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at the lake, you go, "Geez, I mean, it can be overwhelming on where to start."
you know,
So is
But-
the western half better? You know, the eastern half?
Depends on the time of year.
the time of
Yeah.
year early in the spring, the southern part of the dry arm is pretty good, hard to beat, and then the far west part of the lake is good then too. And then everything starts coming to the middle and getting all mixed up, and then you don't know where they might be. And the dry arm gets a little warmer water than the rest of the lake, so that later in the year, that's not the southern part of it isn't quite as good. But I wouldn't think I haven't fished it a bunch though. And then it turns into more of a main lake thing, I guess. Or
Is that where the last tournament is in the southern arm of the year? Or
Yeah, Hell Creek would be in the western part of
Okay.
the arm,
The river arm.
the river arm.
Missouri River? Or
Yep.
or-
Missouri River, yep.
okay.
So the dry arm on the east side, and then the river arm would be on the west side of the two arms of it.
Now, is there much
Right.
as far as flooded timber? Is there any of that type of bite out there? Or?
Not right now because it's down. There is a little bit still in the water, but when the lake was full, there was definitely trees in the water. But then it got to be there was too many trees in the water, and it was hard to find somewhere where there was fish using them, I guess. But we did have a few spots that were good with trees in the water, but that's all out now.
How far down is it?
It's not that far down, 12 to 14 feet probably off full pool, which isn't very far. Back in the 2000s, I think it was 20 to 30 feet below full pool. So
Now, is that something where it's falling every year, or are they keeping it fluctuating?
it fluctuates. This is the lowest it's been probably since 2012, I'd say. I could be wrong, but it's still not super low, but low enough to where there's not many trees left because it had been really high for so many years.
Gotcha. Excellent. You got anything else, Chad?
Well, when is your last tournament? Is that end of August or?
It'll be Hell Creek, not this weekend, but next weekend.
Oh, it's and you're saying that you might not be able to actually fish it because you're going to be busy.
Well, we
or-
usually can't. It's so close to harvest, but I think this year we will.
Try it.
We'll try to.
You pretty much, yeah.
My daughter and I are going to fish in the women's tournament this Saturday.
Oh, good.
He's got 2 daughters, I believe, and 1 son, and
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that we're going to be in 10, 15 years. They're all pretty young, under 10, aren't they? About 10 years old. They're going to be out there because I've already seen his kids out there. They love fishing, and they're just a chip off the block. It looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Keep them in it.
Yeah, we have
There's
the Poplar River right by our house, so we try to make it down there as much as we can. It's not a very big river, but there's fish in there to be caught. So
There's
Nothing
something to
wrong
be
with
said
that.
about those anglers. There's a lot of extremely good anglers in that area. I mean, they don't get the publicity that the Midwest guys get, but there's probably a dozen that the names have stuck in my head over the last few years that they can go anywhere and do well. So maybe they just don't have anything else to do out there. I don't know.
Well,
Like, you're good at
they start
walleye
hunting,
fishing.
I guess, so it's not hunting season.
You know what would be kind of cool is if you could get like Washington, Montana, I don't know, heck, even Idaho, because Idaho has a southern walleye series. If you could get, let's say, the top 10, if you guys do the Angler of the Year or whatever, and you took the top 10 of each one of those states and made one tournament where everybody could come together, and you'd have a 30 or 40 boat field, and I think it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, we'd have to figure out a remote, because I'm not going to go fish against them in Fort Peck. So we're gonna have to go to I don't know, Nebraska or something like that, because I would have no chance against somebody that's got so many years of experience out there. And that's the one thing, and this doesn't come easily. I'm sure they've spent thousands of hours out there trying to figure out these fish, and it all came together this year. So I couldn't have been.
It's always different, and they're all just fish, but we found them in different spots almost every year. We fished the Gulf Cup probably. I don't know that we really fished the same spot twice every year. I mean, some popular spots we've checked more than once, but
you've been dialing it in. You got third last year, right?
Yep.
So you've been creeping up there. So I'm sure that's why your team went for 2,000. That was per day. I didn't realize that. So each day it was $2,000 for your team per day.
Yep.
So the way they do it, you don't get any of that. So the team that bought you got 100%.
Yep.
Oh,
damn.
So the team that won it last year, I think, how much did they go for? Went for 15.
They went for 15,000 the first night.
So wow.
I don't want that kind of pressure. I'm not buying into that.
But they were back-to-back champions.
Yeah, they were.
So
next year you guys are gonna go. You're not even gonna try to buy yourselves next year.
No, we usually don't. We don't need any more added stress, I guess. Right.
So
how big of a group do you get at that Calcutta? I mean, it's got to be a pretty sizable. I mean,
there's like a couple hundred people that show up probably.
Yeah, I'd say
it's not too big.
It's pretty cool though. They got an auctioneer up there, just like we do at Calcutta, and I didn't realize they went for that much. But man, I get it though, because the pot there's probably I don't know, $100,000 in the Calcutta. Or more.
Probably, I'd say close to that.
Right. So whoever bought you got what was your on day 2? Were you first overall on day 2?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, they got you for 5th place on day 1, and then overall winner on day 2. Wow.
Yep. So they got first for the day. I don't know how that works, but I think first for the day and first for overall too.
So they've been.
I think the first night they buy us for both days, and then the second night when they bid is just for that day.
Yeah.
So when he bought us for 2,100 the second day, he got a pretty good payout because we were first. Day money.
Yeah.
20
grand, I would say so.
Yeah. And how much is the entry fee for that tournament?
It's $300, and then it's $50 a day for day money.
Yeah.
And then each big fish pot is $20 a day. So if you want to do big walleye, it's $20 for each day.
Or a big northern.
Or a big northern, or a big bass. There's no bass, but there should be.
So the Calcutta is basically just as big or bigger than the actual tournament prize
I'm
pot.
pretty sure the guy made more money than us.
Well, didn't you get a Ranger bonus too? A Ranger Cup bonus too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah. So pay some bills off and get ready for the next one, right?
I guess, yeah. Got enough to pay for gas.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, man. You probably could spend that much. I'm looking to spend a ridiculous amount of money at the next tournament, unfortunately, but what do you do? I mean, I work a little bit overtime, I guess.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing everything you did. you know, it was a good conversation.
Yeah, congratulations. I was, you know, you always hope, you know, like I saw you up there and like the way you had talked, I'm like, man, they might win this thing. And I was out of signal all day when I came in and checked. I'm like, oh my God, they did. It was pretty cool, man. So and it looked like a lot of people were really happy that you guys won. I mean, there's some history there. Carly's father has won it in the past. So there's some great history there as well. So congratulations. Very happy for you guys. And good luck at the last one.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having us on. It's fun.
Yeah, you bet. Hopefully it won't be the last time.
We'll get real.
Yeah,
Okay.
go win the last one too, I guess. Might as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And just real quick, like, just stick around real quick after I end this. I want to ask you something before we take off.
Okay.
Okay.
See ya.
Yep.